What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicy Jet podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rooney, and we got a big episode today, not because of all the things that are happening in the football world, but because I got a very fun topic that I want to go through because I'm bored, and there's not a lot going on in the NFL, so I want to make sure I take full advantage of the time off that we have here. So what I'm going to do today, we'll obviously go through a trivia question. Then from there, we're actually going to do just a very quick little snippet of what's going on with OTAs, because there is some stuff happening with the Jets, just not a lot. Then we'll go into our gym break, of course, as always. And then what we're going to do is a fun little exercise that I put together, which is the All-Drought Team. So it's taking, over the past 14 years where the Jets have not made the playoffs, putting together the best roster we possibly could with folks that played during this drought for the New York Jets. Now, it's not going to be about how good they were in history. It's how good were they during those specific years of this 14-year playoff drought that we have. So I think it'll be pretty fun. Then we'll answer the trivia question and we'll get out of here. So first, let's do the trivia question because it is going to play into the actual exercise we're going to do later. So during the Jets' 15 years? 14 years? I don't even know now. 14-year playoff drought that we've had. 15 different players have started at quarterback for the New York Jets. Can you name, or how many of the players can you name, and can you name all of them? So if I were you, I would pause this podcast right now and try to lay out the 15 players that have started at quarterback for the New York Jets. And this is only started. Like Chris Streveler doesn't count. Streveler came in a random game. He does not count as someone that started. So 15 of them, good luck. Some of them are easy. Some of them, oh man, it's a throwback. So good luck. And I'll try to do it off the top of my head as we answer the question before we get into the exercise here. So good luck with that one. But let's go into OTAs. So OTAs happened over the past week. Really nothing that crazy has been going on. Typical practices. I know it's starting to get a little bit more heated. We heard from Aaron Glenn that some of the players were starting to get a little feisty. He had to kind of pause practice, pull them all together and be like, hey, guys, we're learning. Come on, pull it together. We're not even in pads at this point, so let's not beat each other up yet. But it's kind of exciting to see that intensity in just OTAs already. So very cool and exciting from a fan perspective. One of the other really cool things is I've noticed the Jets have actually made some hires from Darren Muji's side around analytics. So folks who have been around the game for a really long time to bring that more data-driven approach to the scouting part of our organization. Now, if you guys follow the Jets on Instagram, Twitter, things like that, they've put out a lot of videos of practice, and you'll see Justin Fields is actually playing with a GoPro on his helmet, which I think is really cool for that quarterback room because now you can start to replay the things that Justin Fields were seeing live in practice and replay it in the classroom, essentially. So I think it's really cool that we're actually finally moving into the 21st century and using some of the technology that's at our disposal for football related things, which is really cool and really exciting. So I'd really like to see that. We heard from a couple of the players, but it's the same thing we've heard over the past couple of weeks, which is, we're really learning, we're excited, we're building culture, we're building chemistry together, we're learning the new offense, we're excited about Aaron Glenn. So it's been a lot of positivity around the team so far. I think the only real negative thing, or maybe a couple negative things that have come out of OTAs so far, is a couple people missed the last few days of practice. Michael Clemens, Quinnen, Sauce. But the big one was Malachi Corley, who I think is nursing a little bit of an injury. And if you don't get on the field, you might not make the roster. So it stinks for Corley, but what are you going to do? This is a new regime. He's fighting for a job, and he can't even get on the field. So not a good sign for Malachi Corley, who we really need someone to step up in the wide receiver room. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the only other big news that happened this past week, which of course we need to talk about, Aaron Rodgers signs a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We all knew it was going to happen, but finally it came true. I think he signed for $13 million guaranteed with I think incentives to get it to about 19.5 or something like that. So actually a pretty good deal for a starting quarterback, kind of similar to what Justin Fields is going to be getting with us. So, good for Aaron. The thing that comes up are two different things from this. Number one, is Allen Lazard a trade target for Pittsburgh now? They obviously traded away George Pickens. So their only other receiver is really Calvin Austin, who's like small, fast, more of like a returner type guy. I really like him. He's just not a big body that an Aaron Rodgers would want. So I just wonder if by the time training camp starts, do we make a move? But that would put us in a really bad spot because we really don't have any other wide receivers. It's Josh Reynolds, Malachi Corley, Xavier Gibson, Tyler Johnson. It's a bunch of guys, essentially. So who's going to break out? Is Aaron Smith going to be the guy? So that'll be interesting to see if we actually trade Lazard. It's really just rumors around like the media right now. I don't think we've heard anything from the Steelers, from the Jets in terms of any sort of rumors, things like that. So we'll see how that goes. The only other thing that comes up with this, of course, Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers. The NFL had a thought that Rodgers was going to sign with the Steelers. So what do they do with the schedule? Week 1 in MetLife Stadium, the Pittsburgh Steelers come to town to play the Jets. So Aaron Rodgers back in the building, playing against his former team. Justin Fields playing against his former team. And then, of course, you can't forget a few other guys play for the Steelers now, like a Brandon Eccles and people like that. As I've been told by many people in my small network, the Steelers don't play the Jets very well at home or when the Jets are home. I think they've lost the last 3 matchups against us there. I still need to see what training camp looks like before I decide who's going to win that game. I get very nervous with 2 basically rookie tackles with Highsmith and Watt on the edges. I just feel like that defense is going to be tough, and they know how to play Justin Fields. Justin Fields, one of the things we heard out of OTAs is he's still holding onto the ball way too long, which is okay in OTAs because you're learning the offense, but is that going to be okay when TJ Watt is coming around the edge because it's Armand Membu's first game ever in the NFL? So we'll see how it all plays out. But as of right now, that's going to be the best show of the weekend, I think, especially during the 1 o'clock games, is Jets, Steelers, old quarterback versus old quarterback. We'll see who comes out on top. I'm sure the NFL's kicking themselves for making it a 1 o'clock game and not a later game, but I'm happy with the 1 o'clock start during the early part of the season. So I will take it, and I will say, if you are a Jets fan and you are listening to this podcast, one of the things that always sucks about playing the Steelers is they take over half the stadium. So buy a ticket. It's 0-0, a lot of hope. We're seeing Aaron Rodgers again. Like, it could be really fun to beat Aaron Rodgers at home. So buy a ticket, go to the game so that we're not surrounded by Steelers fans. I've already heard from a ton of people that are Steelers fans that they're going, which is very upsetting. But that is really the rumor mill and everything like that coming out of OTAs. The Jets now have mandatory mini camp this week. So I think it starts on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think Tuesday is they do like physicals, things like that, make sure everyone's good to go. Wednesday, they start practicing. I think they can wear shoulder pads, but there's still not going to be any hitting. So don't expect anything crazy like a training camp would be. But that is mandatory. So we'll see if anyone doesn't show up. But I fully expect everybody to be there. And hopefully these guys who are injured can get back on the field. So that was that. Let's take a pause before we go into this exercise. And let's talk a little bit about, we'll take a little gym break. We'll talk a little bit about the other New York sports. If you haven't been here before, I'm a Jets, Islanders, Mets, and Knicks fan. So JIM spells Jim with a silent K on the end for the Knicks. So we talked about the Jets. Islanders, nothing big has happened in the last week. The draft is coming up very quickly. It should be in the next 3 weeks. So we'll see. I think the combine was happening this week, so we'll see what the Islanders decide to do with the number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft, which is still crazy to say out loud. Number 2, the Mets. The Mets seem to be back in the swing of things. They had a really good series against the Dodgers where they blew a couple games late, but I think they're still up in the series for the entire year, which is great to see them play against, the best team in baseball. And then they just swept the Rockies again. I just turned the game off. I'm recording on a Sunday. The offense was going crazy. Pete is unbelievable. McNeil had 2 home runs. Alvarez finally hit a home run. So it's good to see the bats flying here. And I know it's in Colorado. It's against the worst team in baseball. But it's nice to get that momentum going into next week. So Mets are rolling back in first. And I feel good about where they're at right now. Then we go to the Knicks. The Knicks are the big one. Obviously, last week we talked about how they got wiped out of the playoffs. It's over. Eastern Conference Finals. They couldn't make it to the NBA championship. And what do they do a couple days later? They fire Tom Thibodeau. I while I don't think it was a bad decision, because it seems like there were a lot of moments in the series where he kind of lost us a few games and it feels like, I don't know, another coach could take us over the top, I was still shocked it happened. The reason for that is this is the first time we've been to the Eastern Conference Finals, basically since I was alive, because I didn't really care about the Knicks back in the late 90s. I was too young. So I'm very shocked that after all the success he's brought over the past, 5 years, he really made us like a competitive team that was constantly in the playoffs. And, you really felt good about the squad that we had. But I just think he's not the coach to take us over the top. So while I'm upset he's gone and I was surprised, like, hopefully we find someone better. Now, this is going to be big for the Knicks. You don't fire him without having some good candidates lined up that can really take us over the top. So I wonder, who is that going to be? There's some rumors that it's Jason Kidd. I don't love that. I feel like I don't need to go down the Jason Kidd path. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I heard they're bringing all of Villanova back together, but I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting offseason for the Knicks for sure. Like, what are they going to do when this new coach comes in? And how are they going to shake up the roster if they do at all? I don't know. Maybe they feel like they can get more out of the talent that we had. So we'll see. But that was the big news in all of the other New York sports this week. All right. Now let's get in to this big exercise we've put together here, which is the all-drought team. So once again, the Jets have the longest non-playoff drought in the 4 major men's professional sports, and it's 14 years long. So let's take the players that have played from 2011 all the way to now and see if we can put together a winning roster with the best players at each position. Now, before I do that, because we're going to talk about quarterback first, let's answer the trivia question that I had for you. There were 15 quarterbacks that have started for the Jets during this drought. Who are the 15 quarterbacks? I'm going to try to do this off the top of my head. If I take too long on one, I'm not going to, keep thinking forever. It's not good podcasting if I would do that. So let me think. So from the top, we got Sanchez, Greg McElroy, Geno Smith. We've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh McCown, Luke Falk, Trevor Siemian, Bryce Petty, Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, Joe Flacco. Did I say Josh McCown? I don't remember if I said McCown. Tim Boyle. Did I say Michael Vick? Michael Vick. Mike White. That's 15. I don't know if I doubled up on Josh McCown, so I could have missed somebody, but I think that was all 15. So let me know how many you guys got. I think the Luke Falk is the curveball, and so is the Mike Vick. So I'm wondering if anyone actually remembered who those people are. But so let's go position by position, and let's figure out who are the players that we would take on our all-drought team. So we'll start with quarterback. We obviously listed them out. I think the big ones we got to talk about, Sanchez. Once the drought started, he was not the Sanchez that we hoped he would become. So I don't think he's one that you could put on this list. This was post his playoff run where Max Ryan put him in a preseason game in the Snoopy Bowl and he got hurt, and it just wasn't the same after that. So we can't really put him in. Geno, I think the 2 things that hurt him was tearing his ACL and then getting punched in the face by one of our D linemen, which then put in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and we never saw Geno again. So while Geno became a really great quarterback, it took him like 4 more teams to get to the point where he's at today with, the Seahawks and now the Raiders. So I'm not going to include Geno. Sam Darnold, wish he was better for us. He was supposed to be the savior. We sucked for Sam, and Sam didn't do it for us. I don't think he belonged in New York. I think that was it. The mono thing was so weird. I don't know. He just wasn't good enough, and you can still see the pressure gets to him. You saw it late in that playoff game. I think it was against the Rams. Who did they play in round 1? I think it was the Rams. So yeah, sucks for Darnold, but really wanted him to work out. Aaron Rodgers, you can't put on this list. He played 1 year. The first year he got hurt, what should have been the year. Second year, he only wins 5 games, so we can't include Rodgers. Zach Wilson never lived up to the hype, so he was gone after 3 years. We had to bring in Rodgers because he wasn't good enough. So the only answer here is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick, He actually led us to our last winning season where we won 10 games but didn't make the playoffs in 2015. He owns most of our passing records for a single season, which is insane. I think he had 29 passing touchdowns in 2015. So Ryan Fitzpatrick's the answer. As much as it hurts me to say, he's the one. And the team loved him that first season he was here. 2016 was probably one of the more hateable teams we've ever had because Fitzpatrick held us hostage for a new contract. It was a disaster. So although I don't love him, that season was very magical in 2015. And he was able to chuck it up to the right wide receivers and let them do their jobs. So Ryan Fitzpatrick will be our quarterback. Running back. Here are some of the options we have. We've got Breece Hall, obviously. We've got Michael Carter, who was the running back we drafted. Matt Forte, Chris Ivory, Bilal Powell, Isaiah Crowell, Frank Gore. Those are some of the really notable ones. Now, if you're talking about best running backs of all time, you're probably putting Frank Gore or Matt Forte on there. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this is when they were at their best on the Jets during this drought. So for me, there are two guys that I'm going to take here. I want to do a dual running back. So you have your bell cow and then your third down running back. So I'm going to do Chris Ivory. He actually led the AFC in rushing the year he was at his best on the Jets. And I'm going to take Bilal Powell. Bilal Powell was just a staple of this drought. He was one of the only consistent players that we could cheer for when the teams were so bad. So I always felt so bad that he never made it to the playoffs with us, but I love Bilal Powell. He was just a fun player to watch and just felt like a Jet for life. So I'm taking Chris Ivory because he's just going to smash through people and not care, and then Bilal Powell. Everyone's going to be mad that I didn't take Breece, but the reality is Breece has never rushed for 1,000 yards. He has too many drops. He tore his ACL and got hurt. And he's made for that one-cut zone scheme, and that's really it. And he couldn't do it with Aaron Rodgers. So I need to see more out of Breece. He's got to be here a little bit longer for me to put him on this list, but he's probably the most talented out of everybody on that list. He can be the best player, best running back we've had during this drought. So hopefully he plays well enough to get us out of the drought this year. That's the goal. But I'm going Chris Ivory, Bilal Powell. Wide receivers. This is a fun trip down memory lane. I wrote down a few because some of these names I haven't thought of in a long time. So obviously we got Garrett Wilson. We've got Alan Lazard. Some of the older folks that you can think about are Braylon Edwards, Devin Smith, Jericho Cotchery, Santonio Holmes, Sharon Peak, which is crazy, Clemson, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Jermaine Kearse. You obviously had Devontae Adams last year, Jeremy Curley, who was a staple of this team, Quincy Enunwa, Jamison Crowder, Robbie Anderson, and then, of course, Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall. So for me, these ones are pretty easy. I'm going to go with Garrett as one of my wide receivers. He's probably going to play the slot for me. Maybe not. He'll probably play on the outside. He would play on the outside. Then I would have, obviously, the best wide receiver we've had during this drought, or the best single season we had, which was Brandon Marshall. I think he caught 15 touchdown passes in 2015, which is insane. He won so many games for us late in that 2015 season. So Brandon Marshall, definitely going to be one of my outside receivers. And then there's a couple options, but I'm going to go with Eric Decker as my third receiver. So you think about it, you got Garrett Wilson, Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker. Eric Decker single-handedly won us 3 games during the drought. So he had a great game with Geno Smith against the Dolphins. He was a good player until he got hurt. Now the people I left off, Devontae Adams, he was only a Jet for 6 games, so I can't include him. Santonio Holmes, he was a disaster once the drought started, getting in fights with everybody. Braylon Edwards, we got rid of. Cotchery, we got rid of. And I blame Rex Ryan for that. He should never have gotten rid of Jericho Cotchery. Corey Davis was okay, but he never lived up to his contract. Quincy Enunwa kept getting hurt. Jeremy Curley was just there. He was good, but he wasn't a superstar. So I really like the wide receiver room. Garrett, Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker. And I got Brandon Marshall. No, he's right there. I did leave out Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson was another good one, but he only could do really one thing, which was run fast, straight. So that's wide receiver. Tight end. This is a disaster. I have no idea who to pick for tight end. The people that came up were Dustin Keller, but he got hurt, Jeff Cumberland, Tyler Conklin, Chris Herndon, Daniel Brown, Trayvon Wesco, Jay Samaro. Horrible. Just a horrible group. If it was Dustin Keller of when before the drought started, I would have taken him, but he got hurt and we never really heard from him again. I still blame Ray Lewis for tearing his knee into a bunch of places. I was tempted to take Chris Herndon's rookie year. Him as a rookie with Sam Darnold, he was so good, and then he just disappeared off the face of the earth. No idea what happened. So I have to, by default, go with Tyler Conklin because he never really missed a game and always played. So tight end, we are really hurting. So hopefully this drought ends with our new tight end group. But yeah, we really need somebody because it's just not, it's ugly. So we'll go with Conklin. Offensive tackle. Obviously, we've got rookies right now. We've got Olu as our left tackle right now, and we got Membo. So I didn't include them in this because we don't really know who they are. But the people you could include are Dwayne Brown, Kelvin Beachum, Tyron Smith, George Fant, Mekhi Becton, Morgan Moses, and of course the legend DeBrickashaw Ferguson. So for me, DeBrickashaw still played an extra 5 years after we last made the playoffs while he was in his prime. So I'm going to go with Brick at left tackle. And then at right tackle, it's kind of iffy, but I think I'm going to go with Morgan Moses. He only played with us for 2 years, but he was so solid, such a warrior. I love him. I hate that he's on the New England Patriots right now. It's so painful, and he was a good leader. So I'm going to go with Morgan Moses at right tackle. No Mekhi Becton, sorry. Tyron Smith, Hall of Famer, but not for us. You're out. Dwayne Brown, we paid too much money for you. You couldn't play, so he's out. All right, let's go to guard. Guard is very interesting because we actually haven't rotated guards that much. We had Matt Slauson, Laken Tomlinson. We've got obviously John Simpson now. AVT's been a staple for a little bit. Brian Winters. So for me, I'm just going to go with the people that I can rely the most on. Brian Winters was on the team for 8 or 9 years and started as I think he was our left guard for most of it. So I like Brian Winters at left guard, and I like AVT at right guard. AVT, sure, he's gotten hurt a bunch, but he played really well last year, and I feel good about him sticking around and playing really well. So when he's not hurt, he's a good player. So I'm going to go Winters, AVT. And then at center, this one's kind of obvious, kind of easy. You've got Connor McGovern, Joe Tippmann, and Nick Mangold. You also had Ryan Khalil in there. I'm going to go with the legend. Super simple. Nick Mangold was still in his prime as we were coming out of the playoff run and into the drought. So pretty good offensive line. You got DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Brian Winters, Nick Mangold, AVT, and Morgan Moses. I would take that today, even though I do think our offensive line is really good and has potential to be really good. I would take that for sure. All right, so that's the offense. So we got Ryan Fitzpatrick, Chris Ivory, Bilal Powell, Garrett Wilson, Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, love the wide receiver room, Tyler Conklin, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Brian Winters, Nick Mangold, AVT, and Morgan Moses. Do we score points? I think it all depends on what Ryan Fitzpatrick we get. That's the big question. But you got the receivers to do it, and you got the offensive line to hold up. So that offense should break a playoff drought. But it looks awfully similar to the offense we actually had with Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2015. So who knows? Maybe it's not much different. All right, let's go on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to go defensive tackle first. I broke it out defensive tackle and then DN/edge. Then we'll do linebackers, corners, safeties, and then we'll do special teams. So defensive tackles. Obviously, we got Quinn Williams. You got Sheldon Richardson. We got Muhammad Wilkerson, Damon Snacks Harrison, Leonard Williams, Mike DeVito, Quentin Jefferson, Solomon Thomas. List goes on and on. If you really look at that list, there's some really good players on there. For me, I'm going to go with 2 defensive tackles and a nose tackle because I really want to include this third player. So I'm going to go Quinn Williams. I think he's by far the best player on this list and has been consistently the best player over his career as a Jet. While I really liked Leonard Williams, I'm going to take him off this list because he didn't live up to the hype while he was a Jet. He's played way better with the Giants and with Seattle. I'm going to go Sheldon Richardson next. He was defensive rookie of the year with us when he first started. I think he was drafted in 2013, I think it was. And yeah, he played great, and he had a pretty decent career in the NFL. I loved him as a Jet. So Sheldon Richardson, he was kind of a wild man, but I really liked him. So we're going to do Sheldon Richardson as the other D tackle, and then I want to include this guy because I think he's one of the most underrated players to ever play football, which is Damon Snacks Harrison. That guy could stop the run better than anybody. I love Snacks. I was so sad when he went from the Jets to the Giants. So yeah, I'm taking Snacks as my nose tackle on rundowns, We'll put Sheldon in there for passing downs with Quinnen. That's a really strong interior. I'm very excited about that. On the edge, a little bit of a different story. We obviously got the guys who are playing right now. We got Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson. We've got Jordan Jenkins, Hassan Reddick. Ugh, I'm not taking Hassan Reddick. Bryce Huff, Quentin Coples, JFM, Calvin Pace. For me, for just like pure sacks, I'm going to go with Bryce Huff because he can rush the passer, and I think Will McDonald can overtake him, but we haven't seen it yet. He's only had 1 year where he had 10 sacks. So I'm going to go Bryce Huff on one side. On the other side, I need a guy who's going to set the edge, and this guy has been setting the edge since he came out of the womb, and that's Calvin Pace. Calvin Pace is one of the best free agent signings the Jets have ever had, and he's criminally underrated by this franchise because he didn't sack the quarterback a ton. But he was awesome in that Rex Ryan defense. So I'm taking Calvin Pace and Bryce Huff. So now our D-line is Quinnen Williams, Sheldon Richardson, Bryce Huff, Calvin Pace, with Snacks Harrison coming in on rundowns. Love it. I'm a big fan of that. Linebacker. We've had some pretty good linebackers over the past 14 years. So right now we got Jamian Sherwood, we got Quincy Williams, obviously CJ Mosley just left. We had David Harris, Demario Davis, and Bart Scott. These are the primary guys who have played. Now, Demario Davis is an amazing NFL player. Never was that good with the Jets. He was on the Jets, wasn't great. Rex Ryan said he was going to be Ray Lewis. Never lived up to it. We sent him to Cleveland. He goes to Cleveland, then we trade back for him. He comes back, he plays pretty well for us. The one, I think it was a year and a half he was back. And then he goes to New Orleans and becomes an all-pro linebacker. Because, of course, that's how things go with us. But I'm not going to take him here because he wasn't good enough as a Jet. I am going to take David Harris because he was just a tackling machine and could sniff out a screen better than anybody. Another criminally underrated player during that playoff run that we had. He was amazing under Rex Ryan. Huge fan of David Harris. And then I'm also going to take CJ Mosley. Injuries really hurt him, and that COVID year really hurt him. I don't know how Jets fans are going to remember him in the long run, but he was a very good leader for this team and a really good Jet. So I'm going to take those two. I think Quincy and Sherwood, they just haven't been around long enough or been good long enough. Well, those two are just like thumpers in the middle that I know I can count on. So love that middle linebacker crew. That's good luck running on us. That's all I know. All right, cornerbacks. This should be a fun one. So obviously we got Sauce right now. We just had DJ Reed. We've got Michael Carter. In the past, here are some names I'm going to throw at you. It's kind of crazy. Tremaine Johnson, Kyle Wilson, Darrelle Revis, Antonio Cromartie, D. Milner, Ellis Langster, Blesson Austin, Donald Strickland, Isaiah Trufant, smallest guy I've ever seen, Buster Screen, holds every play, Darren Walls, Marcus Williams, Bryce Hall, just to name a few. Justin Burris, can't forget about Justin Burris either. So for me, we're not picking Tremaine Johnson, I'll tell you that. I am obviously going to go with the greatest player to ever wear a Jets jersey, which is that guy right there, Darrelle Revis. I know he was still really good after the drought. I think his 2011 was probably just as good as his 2009. 2009 is the one that everyone's going to talk about forever because it was just like unbelievable what he did. But then, after a couple of years, we trade him to Tampa, which is where we got all those picks to take Sheldon Richardson, D. Milner, all that stuff. And he comes back, played okay, but then fell off, and his career was pretty much over. So, but I'm still taking him because of that 2011 season. He was just unbelievable. And played pretty well in 2015, too, during that Ryan Fitzpatrick run. So I'm going to take him. I'm going to take Sauce, 2-time All-Pro, and he's only this is his 4th year. So although he didn't have a great year last year, we're not up to the standard we care about. He's still an awesome player, and I think good luck throwing on Sauce and Revis. And then my third corner, I just loved Antonio Cromartie so much. He actually got picks, and he didn't like the tackle, but I don't really need that. I've got thumpers all over the place, so I don't need him to tackle. I just need him to get picks. So I'm taking Antonio Cromartie as my third corner. Good luck. I just don't understand how you're going to complete a pass on us with Revis, Sauce, and Crow. So very excited. If we were doing only slot corners, then I would take Michael Carter over Crow, but we don't have to do that. So we're fine with those three. All right, safety. Safety's a fun one too because we've had a million over the past 14 years. So obviously we just had Chuck Clark. We've had Jordan Whitehead recently. We had Tony Adams still. Ashton Davis. I'm not going to take any of those guys. If you go back, we had guys like Antonio Allen, who had a clutch pick six versus Tom Brady on Gronk. That's like the only play he'll ever be remembered for it, but it was awesome. Marcus May, Marcus Gilchrist, LaMarcus Joyner, Calvin Pryor, horrible. Eric Smith. I will never forgive Eric Smith for letting Tim Tebow run into the end zone on us when we played in Denver. God, that was awful. Jim Leonard, a great player for us. Legend Ed Reed played for the Jets. DeJuan Landry, LaRon Landry, two brothers. Bradley McDougall, who we traded for with Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams is another one. So there's a lot to choose from here. I think when they were at their peak as Jets, I am taking Jamal Adams. Although he left us on very bad terms, I thought he was one of the best players in football at the time, and we got so many picks for him. We got, 2 first-round picks, I think, and a third. It's an unbelievable trade. So I'm still going to take Jamal Adams, even though he fell off after that. And then this other one might surprise some people, but this guy was a Pro Bowler when he played for the Jets for the one season he was here. He's also the biggest guy I think I've ever seen in my life in terms of just like pure bicep, and it's LaRon Landry. That guy could just hit people like crazy. So I'm taking Jamal Adams, LaRon Landry, because I don't think I need people to cover. I need people to hit because I already got 3 great corners. So that's a pretty scary secondary with Sauce, Revis, Cromartie, Jamal Adams, LaRon Landry. So, good luck, trying to throw or run against us. I don't know. Seems like an amazing defense to me. All right. So let's list off the defense. We got Quinnen Williams, Sheldon Richardson, Damon Snacks Harrison, Bryce Huff, Calvin Pace, C.J. Mosley, David Harris, Sauce, Darrell Revis, Antonio Cromartie, Jamal Adams, LaRon Landry, and that is our defense. Finally, let's do the special teams. Kicker, we've had so many kickers over the past 14 years. Eddie Pinheiro, Anders Carlson, Chandler Catanzaro, Randy Bullock, Sam Ficken, biggest nose I've ever seen. Did I say fat Randy Bullock? I did. Kari Vedvik, horrible. Maris legend Jason Myers, Greg the Leg Zerline, and Nick Folk. For me, this is an easy one. I mean, you could have gone Jason Myers because he had a Pro Bowl season with us, but he wasn't here long enough, and he went to Seattle and has been a staple and consistent performer in Seattle. So, stinks that we didn't extend him. Greg the Leg had the ability to be our pick here, but he just fell off so drastically last year that we can't do it. So I'm going to go with Old Reliable, who I think is still in the league, Nick Folk, who just won so many games for us and one of the more clutch kickers the Jets have ever had. So Nick Folk is our guy. Punters, no one really cares about these guys because this team is going to be so good that we don't need to punt. But we got Lachlan Edwards, Thomas Morstead, Steve Weatherford, one of the most jacked punters I've ever seen in my life. If you remember, he's the one who brought the shake weights to training camp when he was on Hard Knocks. It was hilarious. TJ Conley and Braden Mann. Didn't like Lachlan Edwards, didn't like Braden Mann. TJ Conley barely played. Steve Weatherford, during the drought, is when he started to fall off a little bit. So I'm going to go with Thomas Morstead. He was a great punter for us. There's really all I can say, and a great teammate. So, and then finally, the last thing I'm going to do is just give an honorable mention to a potential returner. RIP to a legend, Joe McKnight, who had, I think, 2 or 3 really great returns for us during this drought period. So that is it. That is our squad. I feel like this is a team that can break the drought. It feels like a team that could put up a lot of points, but there's just a lot relying on Ryan Fitzpatrick, so who knows what that does. I love the defense. I think the defense would be really, really great. And then even if we did like a full 53-man roster, I think we'd have some good depth on defense, not so much on offense, which scares me a little bit. But yeah, I think this is a great team. And now that you really look at this entire roster, maybe we'll do a little episode where we go through Hall of Fame Jets, where you have a roster of Aaron Rodgers, Frank Gore, Matt Forte, Davante Adams, Santonio Holmes, Tyron Smith, where you get them at their peak of their playing career instead of just as they were as a Jet. So I hope this was fun, a nice little trip down memory lane. I hope it wasn't too painful for those of you that are scarred by some of the folks that I mentioned today, like I was. Like, I definitely don't want to hear D. Milner's name anymore. Like, that's one that I can't stand. Kari Vedvik, the kicker. Oh my gosh. It's just not great. So hopefully things turn around and we don't have to talk about this playoff drought anymore. But I have a feeling based on the team we've assembled so far, unless coaching can play a massive, massive factor in what happens this year, we're going to be flirting right on the border of whether we make the playoffs or not. So we'll see. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Obviously, there's a lot to come this week with mandatory minicamp coming. So I'm sure there's going to be stuff all over the Jets feeds about what's happening during all those practices. There's going to be interviews. The beat will be allowed there one day. So we'll see how it all goes. But I really appreciate everybody listening. If you could please subscribe, like, rate, review, wherever you're listening or watching across YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Maybe you're catching me on one of the social media platforms, which now we're across Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We've got YouTube Shorts going. So we're all over the place, posting pretty much every day at this point, posting little snippets of these episodes too if you want to listen back. And interact with me. Tell me if this team would break the playoff drought or not. Tell me if there's someone else that you would have wanted on this roster that maybe I didn't pick. Maybe Chris Ivory and Bilal Powell. Maybe you really liked Isaiah Crowell and Breece Hall better. Tell me what you think. Tell me about the tight end room. Tight end room's terrible. What do you like better? Did I miss anybody that I didn't think of? So please let me know. Otherwise, once again, you can follow me across everything at JuicyJet25. And otherwise, I'll be back on next Monday to do another episode, and hopefully we get some good stuff coming out of these mini camps. But thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you all soon. See you later.